Hello, guys, and welcome to Creatures of the Realm, episode 9. Had a little bit of a technical issue. I'm only 5 minutes late, not too bad, but I'm back from a much needed rest. Had a couple weeks off. We're back here on Creatures of the Realm for a wonderful D&D night. And then tomorrow we're going to do Vampire the Masquerade. And like I like to show the audience, the book we're playing, the game we're playing, Vampire the Dark Ages, which is the 20th anniversary version, the old school version, not the newer one, which is V5. But we'll be playing that game tomorrow at 7 p.m. Central. But tonight, we're going to play, or we're going to go over the next creature. You know, the Monster Manual has a wonderful array of creatures, from big to small, and tonight we're going to go over the Wraith. We're going to keep darkness going, because the whole vampire genre, I want to keep it under it. Vampire has a unique. They have their own race as well. But we're going to go over a race. And what is a Wraith? A Wraith is a ghost, a specter, and we all know and love. There's been a multitude of movies that are done with these types of D&D creatures, and not only D&D, but they're in books, they're in movies, they're all over. And just to name a few, ghosts. You remember 1990 film Ghost? Then Paranormal Activity. Remember that? The shaky camera film. You're laying in bed and something happens. Ghost. Paranormal Activity. Conjuring. Remember that? Great films, by the way. And Poltergeist. The little girl goes up to the TV and she has a static and she freezes. Those are the creepiness of these wraiths. And that's what we're going to talk about today. What makes a wraith great in your game? Well, let's talk about pop culture. They're appearing in 16th century literature, a wraith. And like I said, books, literature, all that stuff. So a wraith what is a wraith? It's a ghost, it's a specter. Thank you, Katie. Apparition. Those are things that make up a wraith, and they're in vast array. They're in different types of books and films, and especially Dungeons and Dragons. You could have them in any setting, and the most setting for a wraith would be home, haunted house setting. A building, it's abandoned, group goes in there, and all of a sudden, boom, things start flying around. An invisible hand, translucent hand approaches. Just stuff like that that you can throw in your game for Dungeons and Dragons. But a wraith is also a malevolent Scottish spirit representing an omen of death. Someone dies, and maybe this person was a good person in life, and they died, but something held them back. You remember the film Ghost? How he was killed, and then how in apparition form, the one he's in love with the most, he protected her, but he was generally a good person. A wraith doesn't have to be malevolent. But in this case, in the film Ghost, he protected the one that he was in love with. Things happened. You remember how he was killed, brutally murdered. And he left his body, and in apparition form, he found his way to the person that he loved. Great film. in paranormal activity, it's a house. Things started happening in the house. Same thing in poltergeist and in conjuring. Their setting is a house. Something happened in these houses, and again, you could have your wraith be attached to something, making it bigger than life. Don't just make it boring. A ghost is a ghost. We all know that. But the thing is, make it boring, your party is going to just be, oh, it's just another Dungeons and Dragons creature, yada, yada, yada. But if you have this wraith attached to something, and that connection is there, it gives a background in the story that's going to reflect on your game. Now, I'm giving you the minor things about it. Let's look into what Dungeons and Dragons has to say about Wraith. We all know that Wraiths, according to D&D, they're incorporeal, basically translucent form that seeks to quench all life. They do not like life. They're negative energy. They pass through world, leaving nearby plants blackened and withered. You don't have to do that, but that's just the way that it is. They're malevolent. They're not benevolent creatures. They're neutral evil, medium undead, stuff like that. Their main abilities is, of course, sunlight sensitivity. You don't have to use any of that. But if you do, make sure that it's in a setting where, the Wraith doesn't have to be extremely powerful or OP, but it can be something to bring life to your story. Like, again, I keep reflecting back to Ghost. Died, brutally murdered, came back. Something there holding him back, which was his wife, his girlfriend, stuff like that. A Wraith can be anything. It can be a dog. It can be something that you want to create in your story. To have your player, your group of characters, join the party, and then suddenly something happens in this abandoned building, a house setting, cave setting, or even a forest. The withered plants, life. You can use the D&D monster manual guide to help you out, or you can add a little bit of spice. It has life drain. Those are the abilities that the Wraith has, which makes it a little better than normal. But the main thing about the Wraith that makes it an incredible creature, especially in Dungeons and Dragons, is you can have a player, maybe, and a player in that party died in one of the sessions, and then later on, that player makes it back in spiritual form, in spectral form. Now, could you do that in your campaign? Absolutely. Bring a little bit of spice into it. Those are the things that make a game wonderful. That connection, that spice, because you don't want to leave things aside. What do I mean by that? It's very easy to say, well, this spectral character, this creature approach, you attacked. You're in a dungeon, and all of a sudden you pull out your sword, and you start, oh wait, the sword is not working, stuff like that. Okay, that can be kind of boring. Well, maybe, let's say they're in a home. You go up the stairs, you look left, you look right, door creaks open by itself. Maybe the bed, the sheets kind of flutter. Maybe the closet. The doors in the closet slide open, the ball rolls out. Just stuff like that. You can use tropes that some film use. You can use that. There's nothing wrong with it. You're paying homage to horror films, and especially films like Paranormal Activity, Conjuring, or Poltergeist. Great films that you can use to spice up your game. Now, a wraith you can use a historical figure if you want to put a little history in your games. And if you want to do that, you can, to spice up your game. Now, as I said, in the early 16th century, this is literature. It has history behind it. We all know, as kids, you're at home, watching the movie, you start jumping because the movie has a scary point of the film. And then all of a sudden you see something in your corner of your eye and you thought, man, what the heck is this? What am I encountering? Let me look at my streaming levels. Like I said, I had stream issues when I started, but everything looks to be okay now. So what is the main issue? What's the problem? You're focusing on this film and you see something in your corner of your eye, you get up and you check. You spill your popcorn or whatever chips, whatever you had watching the movie. So you look in the kitchen and you find that, you don't remember putting your silverware out like that. It's scattered all over the table. So you look, and what do you see? You see something move by itself. The silverware starts to float by itself. Kind of creepy, isn't it? Now, when you were a kid, your imagination plays tricks, especially when you're watching a film like Poltergeist. And it's kind of scary, so you're focusing on the film. You look and you could have sworn you saw a sheet flutter, or the pillow wasn't on the ground, the pillow was on the bed. Somebody moved those flip-flops. Something happened. A wraith is a ghost. So if you have that knowledge of how to scare, of how to bring those elements into a story, it's great. Now, if you want to do it a fast way, let's say, same setting, the party goes up the stairs in this massive house. Let's say it's a mansion. Let's get a little bigger. It's a mansion. Spiral staircases to the left and to the right of the mansion. One group goes one way, the other group goes the other. And all of a sudden, they start hearing moans, and stuff like that. They start seeing things flying all over, hitting the walls, shattering. They move from one section to another of the mansion, running, evade, trying to get out of the hell out of the way. Because you know what? Say what you want. When you have a creature, when you have a spirit, a ghost, a specter, a wraith, whatever you want to call it, and you can't see it, but they start throwing something at you, and you see a translucent hand just very quickly, you see a mist behind it, stuff like that scares the hell out of you. And again, let's go back to you're a little kid and you're watching this film. And as you're watching this film, you're scared and you see these things happening all at once. In your head, your mind plays tricks on you. You could have sworn, because you remember that part in Poltergeist? The pool? Pretty scary, right? And as a kid, when you're watching it, you're like, holy smokes, what the heck is going on? And you're looking around in your house and you see things moving. You could have sworn that happened. You could have sworn the pillow wasn't on the bed. It moved. Those flip-flops weren't there. The remote to the TV was at my side, but now it's in the kitchen, on the table. That's pretty scary, right? Those are the things that make a game great. You can use those elements, especially in your story, to spice up the scene. I love writing. I love telling the story, and when you have a scene scary like that, when a group of individuals are walking or just eating at the dinner table, and they're eating, and all of a sudden, did you hear? I didn't hear that. They start continue eating, and I hear a crash in the other room. One of the characters gets up. They go into the kitchen to find out what happened. Glasses came out. The cabinets opened up. All the glasses, all the silverware, all the drawers opened up. Crash, crash, crash. They saw this happen all at once. And what do? You run or investigate? What do you do? What can you do? And in Dungeons & Dragons, in the Monster Manual, gives you these elements that you can use like life drain. We all know what that is. Can you imagine getting hit by a wraith? Draining your life, your essence. You know, you turn around and you see this individual in spiritual form. All of a sudden the hand grabs your mouth and you feel your skin pulsating. And this hand, translucent, starts to drain you of your life. And you wonder what happens next. Your party's there to save you. Your weapons can't work, it goes right through it. So what do? Silver, folks. Silver is a part of the mythology. Now, it doesn't have to be silver. The silver can kill a wraith. Why? That's mythology. Silver is very ancient, especially if it's blessed. You can say a cross. You can say reading an excerpt of a holy book, the Bible, for example. You can use that. Whatever you want to do, bring those elements into your game. Understand them, know them. Bring those elements in your game. Make sure that those elements project what you want in your story. What is the concept of your story? If you want to scare, then do it. If you want to have literature, use a historical figure, then do it. But do it well. Drop little hints in there. If they're in a mansion, if they're in a house, if they're in a forest, a wraith can be anywhere. What about that party member that died 5 episodes ago? And all of a sudden, he comes back to the game, playing a new character, but he happens to be that very person that's the malevolent spirit in the game. But the party doesn't know it. You're going to have to be swift. You're going to have different scenes apart from the party. Not knowing how that individual will be in the campaign. In campaign 1, campaign 2, I had one of my players play 2 characters, one in the main campaign, and then the other a hidden character. They didn't know who he was playing till later on. way later on. Way later. And let me tell you, it's fun to do that. I love to do that. It intensifies the game. It gives the game depth. It's intriguing. It's fun. And when you're doing a cool character like Wraith, it's cool. Now, Vampire the Masquerade also has a game called Wraith the Oblivion. And Wraith the Oblivion is very, very dangerous. They can really mess up your party. But Vampire the Masquerade, the world, the White Wolf world, is very different from D&D. It's a lot more dangerous because you don't have hit points, the large amount of hit points and stuff like that. So anyways, the game mechanics are way different. It's a lot faster in combat than in Dungeons & Dragons. But I'm not knocking Dungeons & Dragons. I love Dungeons & Dragons. But I will tell you that if you have a Wraith, let's go back to the Wraith, you're using the same Wraith from the Monster Manual, just add a little spice to it. Bring him in the game, add some spice, use tropes from movies, books, to intensify the scene, and your party will love it. Your players will love it. A Wraith can also be a type of demon. Remember that. So, if you want to incorporate that, you can go ahead and do that. I do that well in my games, my previous games, and again, the party, the players enjoyed it. Now, let's go dive deeper into a Wraith. A Wraith, remember the movie Annabelle? Remember the doll? She was possessed. A Wraith, again, remember I said demon? A Wraith can also possess an item. A sword. A demonic sword. The sword likes to drain blood when you use it. Just whatever you do, it intensifies the scene. That sword has its own mind. So when you do that, it really brings a lot of depth to your story. Now, Annabelle, remember that film? The doll? Creepy looking doll, by the way. It doesn't have to be a doll. It can be anything you want to do. But the doll thing is really cool. Imagine your party goes into town, and I did this for season 1. They went into the town, and the merchant had different items, weapons and stuff, and one of my players loved that sword. And the sword was possessed by a demon. But they didn't know that. Later on, one of the dwarves in the game went inside that tent. Well, he didn't go inside the tent, he was the actual merchant. And he broke the glass to the sword. The sword called out to him, and the sword took over. So he grabbed the sword, the dwarf grabbed the sword, and started slaughtering everyone in that area. A group of knights had to bring down the merchant to kill him, but the sword got away. Yes, it levitated and moved out of the area. Blew up. Yes. And, stuff like that really intensifies the scene. Now, what else can a Wraith do? Let's look at the Dungeons & Dragons stats. Alright. Again, you don't have to. Life Drain is really cool. But stat-wise, Armor Class 13, Hit Point 67. Again, stuff like this can be tweaked. It can fly 60 feet, hover, stuff like that. So, damage resistance. Cold, fire, lightning, thunder. Slashing from non-magical attacks that aren't silver. There you go. Challenge rate of 5 and 1,800 experience points. If you decide to use XP. If not, then you can do it the other way, which is more of a story form. So, when it targets a humanoid within 10 feet, has been dead for no longer than a minute and died violently, the target's spirit rises as a spectre. So yeah, it's a pretty fast thing. Remember, when you use the D&D version, you can throw in a lot of things into it. I usually homebrew a lot of the creatures that I use. I look at the stats, and I change here and there, and I always kind of put my own little spice into it. You have to, because, well, you don't have to, but when you're playing the game, you have the group of characters, and they're like, oh, it's a typical Wraith. Well, it's not. Player knowledge, stuff like that, that comes into play. Although people try not to do it, sometimes you're like, oh, Wraith, so good. I can take them out myself. But if you don't have that, you do something differently. Maybe it's possessing a doll, maybe stuff like that. It's going to intensify the game. That's what it's about, right? Intensify the game. So, Wraiths are also a type of demon. Remember I mentioned that. They're a type of demons. Good demons that you can use categorically. And, you have your imps and I. So, more powerful that Wraith is, more dangerous the setting will be and the game will be. You can overall have that storyline develop in one session, or maybe 3 parts. However you want to do it. And I always say how you want to do it, because yes, I'm giving you a little bit of advice, but if you want to use it, fine. If not, everybody's different. And I love using elements like this, especially horror. Again, a creepy moment. I mentioned the poltergeist, the pool scene. Remember the braces? Oh, the braces kind of going all over the place. That was creepy. Creepy, creepy, creepy. That is like, as a kid, I had braces as a kid. And I'm telling you, to see that scene, it hurt me. Alright, so you have your demonic aspect, which is a conjuring. I brought up these 4 films because they all have a connection to what a Wraith is. And out of them, a dozen or more films, these films describe Wraiths to the T. Paranormal activity, you get your sheet that comes up. You're in bed, the sheet comes up. Remember that? Remember the fluttering of the sheet, the bed sheet. You remember she's recording and she saw something move. That is an epitome. That is a perfect Wraith right there. Remember in The Conjuring, when they're talking to the family and they have the tape on the table and they start recording, and then things started happening. Just those are the elements you can bring to your story. And in Poltergeist, here's another scene. A little girl, cute as a button, but when she went up to the TV and put her hands on the TV in the static, she's staring at the TV. That is the creepiest moment ever. I mean, as a kid watching that, man, I tell you, it's creepy. And again, that's a depiction of what a wraith is. You don't see it, but you hear it, smell it. Sometimes you can see it if they so choose to show you. And a wraith really intensifies the moment. The moment that you are enveloped in the story, in the scene, and then something clicks. The shattering of glass, the wraith begins to emerge from the TV and grab you. The wraith animates if they're in a doll, like the movie Animal. The sheets, bed sheet starts to flutter, like in Paranormal Activity. In Ghosts, your slaughtered life and your spirit left your body. Something holds you back before you could go towards the light or towards the darkness. Whatever is holding you back, something is not done. Something is unfinished, and you must finish it. Those are depictions of what a wraith is. Now, would you use that in your game? Those are tropes in films that I describe that you can use. That makes things better, bigger, stronger, lifelike. What do I mean by lifelike? If the players in your party in the game, and if they're in the moment, and they're in the scene, that's what I mean by lifelike. They're into their characters, they're into that moment that brings everybody together, and they have to establish something. They have to establish a connection between that wraith. What is keeping that wraith here? What is that wraith about? Or maybe it's nothing like that at all. Maybe they just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And they had no choice but to kill this wraith. But then they realized that after destroying the wraith with the silver that they had, the dagger, a silver dagger, or maybe it was a silver sword, or maybe it was a silver net, whatever it is that you have, they have. They destroyed the wraith, and they realized that this wraith was trying to warn them of what's next. But they couldn't. The wraith couldn't establish a connection because that wraith wasn't malevolent. It wasn't evil. It was good. And the wraith wanted to tell them, hey, there's something wrong coming up. I'm warning you. But the party, being your typical D&D party, I have my sword, I have my weapons, I've got my gear. There's a creature, we're in a dungeon setting. Not all stories are the same. Not all stories are a tale of good versus evil. Maybe this is a story of something was good in life, and then that goodness was torn away from that person. And now that person is dead in ghost form, trying to connect with someone in life, trying to say, hey, this I died immorally. I died, well, not immorally. I died in the wrong way. They killed me. They slaughtered my family. Whatever it is, I need your help. They were calling out. But the typical party doesn't know that. So bring in the clues. Let them know that this bigger than life individual that died wasn't malevolent. All he wanted to do was to connect with the party, to tell them, hey, help, I need your help. Help me. So what happened? The party drew their weapons and they killed the Wraith, and they figured, hey, let's move on, experience. That happens. Folks, when you're designing a game or designing a story, a setting, make sure that you have enough clues sprinkled around the area. Let the party know what's going on. Oh, wait, maybe this Wraith isn't bad. Maybe Wraith is trying to tell us something. Once they establish that, then they'll bring their swords down and say, okay, we're going to have to figure this out. And the Wraith said, well, I was murdered by a group of knights. And they worked with a cult. I was at the wrong place at the wrong time, and they slaughtered me. My family's in danger. I need you, please, to get the word out before they kill my family. So now you have the hook. Now you have a group of adventurers that have a hook, a reason to go out, a reason to save people without, hey, just here's some gold, go out there and kill some rats in a building and you'll be okay. So I love, personally, the reason why I brought up Wraith in this way is because I really wanted to establish a true connection. Because I love using ghosts and specters, however you want to call them. Wraith has many names. So, it's a ghost, an apparition, a specter, however you want to call it. So, I love using them because you can establish a really good story. And, like in Ghosts, where he died and that connection is awesome. And in Paranormal Activity, I say that again, they're in the setting of a home, and there's a lot of shit going down. And they're recording it, the shaky camera thing, and that's, I like that type of stuff, and if you go into the demonic thing, that's kind of creepy too. And of course, Poltergeist. I bring that again because that's not only a classic film, it's also one that you can use those tropes. There's so many in there, and they're great. Knocking on the wall and stuff like that. We can go into a bunch of horror movies that are great, especially ghost films. There's a dozen out there, but I brought some of my favorites to really depict what you can do for your games. Now, again, if you have a Wraith in a forest setting, remember, when there's a large area where the party can move around, it's more difficult for the Wraith to do his thing. Because remember, Wraiths have a connection to the real world, the world of life and death. So now that Wraith has a connection in a certain area. And if you have a setting of the forest, they're going to spread out. Your party's going to go all over the place. So what you can do if you have a setting in the forest, you can still do it. Maybe they're in a circle. Make that circle maybe an acre, maybe less than that. Maybe 700 feet. However you want to do it. Just a location where the Wraith can do its damage or not, or have the party investigate. Oh, wait, there's something going on in the ground. Why is there a pentagram? Why is it drawn on the ground? What are we doing here? This is not good. So now you have the party, they're worried about what's going to happen. So they start to move around and they start to see what's going on. What do they see? They see this ritual that has been done thousands of years ago, but they don't know that. But they find enough clues to realize, oh, somebody was doing a ritual here, and we're in the ritual. Well, the ritual hasn't been finished for over 1,000 years, and the party is now standing in the area where the ritual can be finished. And now they're part of that ritual. And the story can be the ritual part of that ritual hasn't been done for a long time, and now it activates, and the Wraith happens to be the pain in their thorn, or their thorn in their side, however you want to call it. And now they have to fight to stay alive. And you could use different things, like they move something, grab their ankle, they're pulled to the ground, do a dex save. Let's say they miss it. Miss a dex save. Boom! On the ground, they start to be pulled. Something is pulling them, and they start screaming, or however, that's the thing about Dungeons and Dragons, and I will tell you this. Like I said, I love Dungeons and Dragons, but I will tell you this. A lot of times, when you have a story like this, you can use Dungeons and Dragons, but make sure that the party is low level. Level 1. To give it a little bit of spice. Level 2 maybe. Or even you can use level 3 to give them a little bit of their abilities. But low level enough that everything has to be done accordingly. They have to be careful, and the stakes are high. If you have a higher level of characters, you know that the stakes have to be a lot higher. And of course, now you have to change your big bad and stuff like that. Make them powerful enough that it could balance out in that setting. So, now you have story set. You have story, you have setting, the forest. Let's stay with this one. And the mansion and the house, that's your typical setting for a Wraith. What about the forest? There's a ritual, remember? So there's a ritual, they're inside that pentagram. And they have to figure out how to leave that circle. The circle's not 30 feet. Let's say the circle is about the size of a football. It's big enough. They start doing investigation checks. They start looking around and they see, oh my gosh, we have enough movement now. And they notice that there's dead bodies in the ground, buried. See crosses on some of them. or you see names, prayers, stuff like that. Make it very creepy, especially level 1 characters, but because you're playing level 1, again, you're careful about anything. Somebody could literally blow in and you might die. So the stakes are very, very high. And level 1 is great because it's fun. You have to be careful. So now you're moving around, trying to figure out what's going on. Then you realize, there's bodies, there's mounds, there's crosses, there's pentagram. This is some form of ritual. So what are we doing? And they realize there's a cabin not too far in the circle. One of the players says, okay, I want to check out the cabin you guys stayed in. So they realize that one can leave the circle, but out of a party of 5, one can leave, the other 4 must stay. So they're like, okay, well, let's see if a friend can come with me. So out of 5, 2 try to leave. They can't, there's a barrier. And as they leave, get damaged of some kind. Draining their hit points, stuff like that. So one of the players has to go to that cabin by himself. And talk about being creepy. So now, that player makes his way towards the cabin. And towards the cabin's open. There's a dead body off the bed on the stairs, reaching out. So now you gotta make a wisdom check. Somebody's messing with your mind. And you fail it. And you start to feel a lot of pain in your mind. Then take the damage from that, but you move on. Move on, you get closer, and now you're afraid. You make the appropriate fear checks. Fail, you're afraid. So now what do you do? You move up. Let's say you make those saves. Let's go back. Let's backtrack. Replay. Right? So you backtrack and you see the dead body reaching out, and you do a save, wisdom save. You make it. You make the fear check. That could also be a wisdom save. You make those checks and you're inside the cabin. You realize the cabin, there's tables with bottles, a cloth over the table, stuff like that. You know, mugs spilled. You know, you see a mug cracked, shattered, whatever. And you start looking around and you see a book that's open in the corner. And as you approach it, the book is open. The book's pages starts to move at incredible speed. Again, you've used that. I've seen that in film. You've seen it in film. Remember Necronomicon? Remember Evil Dead, the book? So you can use a book too. Stuff like that. You can use movie tropes to really intensify the scene. But it doesn't have to be in the Necronomicon, but the book's pages and you go up to it and all of a sudden you're scared shitless. You don't make another wisdom roll. You piss your pants, but you're in fear. The book flips over, it levitates, you see a spiritual hand grab it, close it, the book disappears, you smell sulfur. You see this tail whip What are you doing? Fucking run. Turn around, you run. Do your deck save. You know, everything, you know, and the cabin starts to move. There's a knife in one of the drawers. It flips out. The knife comes at you. You do a deck save, and you run towards the ground. You dive, and the knife just misses your ear. And you hear the whoosh of the knife. Flips and hits the ground. So you feel that sense of urgency, stakes, low-level characters in a setting that's unmistakably dangerous, and the Wraith is in that setting. Let's backtrack. Go back to the cabin. You have evidence of about goblets that are on the grounds. Goblet is shattered. You see this beautiful cloth on the table, bloodstained. You see a dead body reaching up the stairs, but the dead body is fresh. So now you have an issue. What do? Do you leave it there, or do you leave it there, or you just say, fuck it? No, we investigate further. Nothing has to happen. I gave you a setting of things happening, it makes it fun, but this setting is different. Nothing happens, you see the dead body, and all of a sudden you're looking around. The player is smart, so he's going to make an investigation roll. He's going to try to feel against the wall, and you see, oh wait, there's something up against the wall. There's something there. What is it? It touches something. You hear, gum, gum, gum. Uh-oh. The wall. You see a cabinet. And the cabinet was filled with tissues and so on. It moves. You see stairs going down. What do you do? And you're curious. You go down. You see a lantern. You have a backpack. You have some lid or whatever. Whatever you had, you ignite that lantern, use the lantern, you go down the steps. The story. So now you have your setting. Now you have your events take place. That the characters are not spread apart. Or somehow, since one of the players went into the cabin and started something, maybe the other cast members or the other players could not stay in one area, or maybe alleviated that that hole that circle has. So now they realize, oh, we can get out. Let's go help our buddy. So they all leave and they go to the cabin to help their friend out. They realize, oh my God, there's a dead body. And they go inside and they see the stairs. But they see the lantern at the end of the steps. One of the players made an investigation roll and they see, a perception. And they see the lantern at the end of the steps. It's placed neatly, and you can see with an investigation check or survival is for, you can see that there's somebody that went downstairs. But where is he? Something happened. So they follow. All of them went. They grabbed a lantern. They continued. You see a long corridor. Very, very dark. And the only light they have is their 10-foot radius lantern. And as they go downstairs, you hear come, 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 come. And that cabinet's lit slid closed. Now they're trapped. One of the party members tries to go upstairs, try to get back up, and they can't. Meanwhile, outside, have a group of adventurers approaching. One of them says, "Hey, I can't get out of the circle." So now you have the next party coming, trapped in the circle, continuing the ritual that has not ended. So now you have your events continuing. One party went down there, check out the events. The other party comes in and says, "What's happening?" And you realize, well, maybe that was a party member that died going to the cabin. You have this book, have these goblets that are shattered, you have a hidden door, and you have a staircase going down, you have a long corridor, a lantern. That's all you got. You have a story, you have a setting, you have a one-shot that is creepy as hell. You have a scene that can potentially be perfect for a Wraith setting. You have the book that opened up by itself. You have potential to do a lot. I love to use Wraiths because they open up stories from one to another. Anything can be used. It really gives the mind a huge opening for anything story-wise. And it can be connected one to another. Keep that train going. I love it. Even in books, I love ghost stories. I do. And let me tell you, again, as a kid, seeing these old movies and being scared, and now having a chance to tell my own story on my channel and having the audience watching is wonderful. So, in the end, I will tell you, if you are going to use a Wraith, make sure that your setting is perfect. And make sure that your players are low enough level to have some form of fun, and they can be scared. The stakes are high enough to really bring in the story. Don't make it to where you can slaughter all of them, but make it enough that the players are scared themselves. It's hard to do, but once you put your mind into it and understand the setting more and how to use those characters and then how to use Wraith in what I call a perfect setting, try to make it where the setting makes sense. Follow me? Makes sense. Don't just throw in the Wraith in. And if you do it by mistake, keep the party closed in. Don't let them go all over the place. Keep free will, of course. Don't let them fly out, go all over the place. Keep them in a location where the Wraith can do its damage and the story can flow. That's all I have for you guys tonight. I hope you enjoyed Wraith. My next creature, I don't know what I'm going to pick, but I'm still going to pick the horror setting because horror is cool to me. Tomorrow, 7 p.m. Central, episode 8. Vampire the Dark Ages. stay with us. Thank you for watching. I love you guys. Do not forget to subscribe, like, get the word out about Playerole. You know, I love it that you guys are watching, and thank you for your support. It's always wonderful to have a great community of people, whether it's Dungeons and Dragons, Vampire the Masquerade, whatever game it is, just a community of role players itself. I love you guys, and I will see you guys tomorrow night at 7. Thank you for watching.